Welcome to the MLB show on the S.O.S podcast network, Sauter on Sports podcast network. That is, I am Mark Sauter. He is Tom Brown, and we are back one day after. I was thinking of a word. It's not the eve after. It's whatever. Just the day after the Toronto Blue Jays beat the New York Yankees 5-2 and go on to the ALDS. For the first time since 2016. We're going to talk all about that. We're also going to touch on the other two series in the NLDS, and we're going to touch a little bit on Seattle and Detroit Game 5 tomorrow night. So much to get to. We may have because I'm just going to be honest with you guys, this is going to be a pretty heavy Blue Jays side to the conversation. We'll touch on the Yankees a little bit, but for the most part, we're going to talk about the Blue Jays. I feel like there's a lot of conversation about the quote-unquote downfall of the Yankees, and rightfully so. They're the New York Yankees. That's to be expected. But we're going to focus on the Toronto Blue Jays, man. What an incredible ride. What an incredible season. And I think it's important if you are a Blue Jay or a baseball fan, I would assume, and maybe this is ignorant of me to assume this, but I think it's rightfully ignorant maybe, that a lot of you don't understand how crazy this is. Like, this is insane that we're even talking about this, that not even just the Blue Jays beating the Yankees and not even in the fashion that they beat the Yankees, but the fact that we're talking about championship series featuring the Toronto Blue Jays is insane. And we're going to talk about why. And we're going to talk about it once again from a Blue Jays kind of perspective. That being said, a good friend of mine is going to potentially join us for just 10 minutes. He's a Yankees fan, and we're going to get a Yankees side to this whole thing. Hopefully, not sure 100% if he's going to join us or not. If he does, and you've been watching me talk about hockey for the last 3 years, then you know him very, very well. And if you don't, then you don't know him, and that's fine. He's very, very wise when it comes to baseball, baseball writer, baseball gambling writer. He's in the know, and he's a Yankees fan. So we're going to hopefully get him on the show just for a few minutes to chat about the Yankees. Before we carry on with the show, let everybody know that this show is brought to you by First Round Collectibles right now with promo code SPORTS10 at FirstRoundCollectibles.com. Get up to 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off selected cards. And with our promo code SPORTS10, you get 10% off of regular price cards as well as cards on sale. That's up to 60% off selected cards in the First Round Collectibles store. So go to FirstRoundCollectibles.com today. Use promo code SPORTS10 for 10% off your order, regular priced or sales priced items. Also, as always, Total Apex Sports and Total Apex Media. Thank you to them. Big shout out to them for having us on board. We appreciate it. Baseball playoffs, full throttle. Obviously, football's going on. Hockey started just a couple days ago and is officially in full swing tonight. The first crazy, I think there's 12 games in the NHL tonight. Typically, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays are big nights in the NHL, and this is the first big night in the NHL, which we're all really looking forward to. And basketball starts next week. So Total Apex Sports has you covered in that, and Total Apex Media, everything from health to fitness to lifestyle to faith to gaming to TV shows to movies to pop culture. They have it all. Total Apex Sports and Total Apex Media. All right, take a breath. Tom, how you doing on a Thursday, bro? This feels good.
Pretty fantastic. Yeah, well, obviously a really exciting game last night. I think everybody enjoyed that. Went on pretty long. It was late. Later for you guys in the Eastern time zone, but even here, noticed quite a few more Jays hats on my commute and around town today than usual. I noticed some some red eyes this morning on my commute. I know Kevin Gosman sent out on his social media, the sun's shining, something to the effect of the sun's shining a little bit brighter today, maybe a little too bright. I need electrolytes. I think that I know you don't. I saw quite a few Jays fans around who also maybe tied one on in celebration last night. But I mean, how often does this happen, right? I mean, the Jays haven't been in the playoffs, haven't won a playoff round since 2016. So, in fact, hadn't won a playoff game since 2016 until this week. So, pretty fun for fans doing it at Yankee Stadium, obviously against a division rival, against the Yankees, who are always such a good team, right? All the talk aside, there's a reason they're in the playoffs every year. And it's not just Aaron Judge is the best hitter in the major leagues. They're deservedly the favorites most of the time, right? So obviously special for the Blue Jays, for Blue Jays fans. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, enjoyed watching it as much as I did. I know my phone blew up. It was weirdly silent during the game. It wound up 5-2. It had been 5-1. And at no point was it not very tense, right? There was like the calm before the storm. I think everybody's watching that game from the edge of their seat. And then, of course, and I assume that's the same for many other people, the phone just blows up at the end because it's very exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, in a larger context, and we are going to talk kind of big picture, I would imagine, quite a bit on this show today. So you said they hadn't won a playoff round until since 2016, which is true. They haven't won a playoff game since 2016, which is also true. And you're talking about beating the Yankees. The Blue Jays haven't been like relevant enough in the last decade to have a real true like rival, right?
Right.
But it's the Yankees.
Yankees, that's the Yankees' exceptionalism. They are the Yankees. They're always the Yankees. They don't have to have rivals really because they are everybody else's natural rivals by the virtue of that. I mean, that's where Babe Ruth played. You know, they've won all the championships. They're in the playoffs Yankees every year. Yeah, probably it's almost impossibly high standard that they have to live up to, right? And no longer with the financial might of other teams, even their neighboring team, the Mets, but the Dodgers. And yet there is, and you can make fun of it if you want, but everybody is honestly, even Boston, somewhat intimidated by the Yankee mystique. That's the Yankees, right? That's the pinstripe. So yeah, it does make it every day for them forever is a more special day for their opponent than it is for them. That's just what they have to live with. And and when they come up short, everybody dances, and that's just the nature of it for them.
Well, and the point that I was trying to make from a Blue Jays perspective is before 2015 and 16, where we went to the ALCS back-to-back, the Blue Jays hadn't made the playoffs since they won the World Series in '93. Right. So this isn't just, we're back for the first time in 10 years. This is legitimately like, even 10 years ago, we made it 2 years in a row, and we hadn't made it to the playoffs since I was like 4 years old. Mm-hmm. So this is like a huge, this is huge. It is absolutely huge. Shout out to Joe. You know him from the football show here at the S.O.S Podcast Network. From a Yankees point of view, we lost to the better team. That being said, don't let us get an infield who can hit for average and another starting pitcher and maybe, I don't know, a right-handed hitting catcher. Don't worry about being on Spot Track doing Cashman's job for him. And I appreciate
that a lot. I'm sure everybody saw A-Rod's comments that maybe the roster construction, maybe Aaron Boone didn't have the best constructed roster to deal with. I think A-Rod said 3 left-handed hitting catchers and 5 DHs. It's pretty tough to win. Fair enough. But yeah.
And I will echo Joe's sentiment here. Tom is a good man. Absolutely. So I I have a ton of thoughts on this from a Jays point of view, a lot of thoughts. And, I'll hand it over to you first. Because for me, the game is one thing, and I want to know your thoughts about the game and as the series as a whole. But I just can't help but think about this on a bigger picture. But before I get into all of my thoughts on it, hit me up. What are you feeling today? I mean, you can hit on the game, you can hit on the whole series, whatever you want. What are you feeling about the Toronto Blue Jays moving on to the ALCS?
So after the enormous letdown from Game 3, a game where the Blue Jays really didn't play their game, right? They were the team who kicked the ball around. They been credited with 2 errors, but there were some other terrible defensive miscues. Louis Barland, tough luck on that home run. That's just, you go back and look at the replay on the Judge home run. Watch the whole at-bat. I know some people thought he hadn't set up that pitch well enough. I think there's a point at which you tip your cap. That's Aaron Judge hitting a home run on a ball that I don't know how many other players in the majors take that ball yard. That was way inside, high ends of way inside. So there's a point at which you tip your cap. I did think it was interesting after the game. There was no immediate decision on who was going to be the opener for Game 4.
Yeah,
it was stated that every pitcher on the Jays roster was available for the game, and then within an hour, Schneider had let it be known that it would be Varland. He would go right back to Varland, who was terrific, setting the tone for the Jays in that bullpen game. There was some other interesting stuff, right? I mean, they used 8 pitchers. I know Yankees fans aren't the biggest Devin Williams fans at the moment. I don't know how much Jays baseball Yankees fans have watched this year. I know that most of the games that they've seen them play against the Blue Jays have gone the Jays' way. But find a Blue Jays fan who wasn't very concerned when Jeff Hoffman came in with 2 outs.
My goodness. My goodness.
I think we understand how Yankees fans feel when Devin Williams is set to enter a game. He immediately issues a walk to load the bases. Weird things happen. The Jays win. Yankees fans left. I did think I thought one interesting wrinkle, right? I don't remember if it was after the 5th or 6th inning, but Trey Savage walked from the dugout out to the bullpen between innings.
Yeah.
And the next inning, they sent Kevin Gausman out to the bullpen. And I don't know, the last time I saw somebody walk that slowly, just letting the Yankees get as much of a view of him as possible. The last time I saw somebody walk that slowly, it was probably Big Papi hitting a home run in Yankee Stadium. He made sure everybody spent a lot of time looking at him. I don't know how much mind games work, but there's no chance at all that wasn't at least an attempt at getting into the heads of Yankees players.
For sure. Absolutely.
I'm not going to psychoanalyze anybody. Maybe they laughed at it and then forgot immediately. But it was really amusing to me as a viewer, right? Just like watching some of the shenanigans that go on. And then the Blue Jays just did what they do. They held on to the ball. They caught the ball. They threw the ball to the right place at the right time. And timely hitting. This wasn't the laser beam show that we saw in games 1 and 2 at Rogers Center, where everything was leaving the yard. This was much more of what we became used to watching from the Jays all season long.
And
putting pressure on.
Really quickly, Tom. Sorry to cut you off. I think that's a really important point. Is that what we saw on Saturday and Sunday was insanity, and it was fun. It was incredible to watch. Obviously, as a Jays fan, you're like, what is even happening right now? As a Yankees fan, too. But it was so exciting, not only because of what we were watching on the field, but compared to what we watched on the field, like the whole season. Like, they hit home runs, but that's not necessarily their game. And what we saw on Tuesday night and you kind of hinted to it, was exactly the opposite of what this team does. They don't strike out a lot, and they did a lot on Tuesday. They don't kick the ball around a lot, and they did a lot on Tuesday. And that's what I thought was so impressive about last night. Never mind the win, just getting back to what this team has been known for all season long.
And pretty fantastic too, right? I mean, the first two games, not only was it exciting seeing the laser show, and it was, but having been in the playoffs 3 times since 2016 and not having won a single game, right? Just getting that monkey off the team's back, but off the fans' backs. I mean, it's stressful, right? When you're watching, you put a lot of time into this team. The 162 game season, these guys are part of your daily routine. If you're the kind of degenerate fan that I am, my daughter always says that summer, when spring training starts, we don't even look at the games, but just having Hazel May's voice in our house, having Jamie Campbell's voice in our house. That's what summer. That's the soundtrack of summer for her entire life, right? So it's a 6-month commitment. We don't have to travel. We don't have to play. We don't have to play 13 games in 14 days on average, right? We don't have to do that stuff, but it is a commitment. You care about this. You watch it 3 hours a day. It's just sort of it becomes the background in your life, and so you don't want it to be over. You want the best for it. You want the best for yourself, for fans, for everybody. And having had such pitiful performances the previous 3 times in the playoffs, like sad performances where you couldn't score a run, where we couldn't catch the ball, right? Couldn't stop where our players could not stop running into each other, injuring each other. What a turnaround to then having home field advantage against the Yankees, which we discussed earlier, does make it more special. Whether it should or shouldn't, it does, and it does for every other team. Each of the other 29 fan bases would love to win, and each of the other 29 fan bases would love to win just that much more against the Yankees. It's just a fact. What a terrific turnaround. What a great night. And moving forward, being the first team to get out of the divisional round, they'll have time to get their electrolytes in today, right? But the team will also have time to rest up. We may see Bo Bichette. This is too early to predict what roster turnover we'll see, but I think Bassett threw a simulated game yesterday. So did Max Scherzer. I think neither the Tigers nor the Mariners have as much left-handed hitting as the Yankees. So I think Brule is likely not going to be on that roster.
I would agree with that.
Expect that probably Bassett would be taking his place. What else they do? Who knows? Who's nicked up right behind the scenes too? We don't know a lot of what they know. But maybe Bichette's back, so forth and so on. It's too early to speculate on that. We have plenty of time, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, this weekend before the CS kicks off on Sunday. But just giving themselves a couple extra days. The reset from the regular season to the divisional series seemed to light a fire under Vladdy Guerrero Jr., who did not look remotely like the last month of his regular season self. And maybe this next few days we'll do the same for George Springer, who actually, despite the home run, kind of struggled this series, didn't have the best at-bats. Certainly not what we're used to seeing. Just fun to bask, fun to watch, fun to, if Detroit wins, right, Tarek Skubal will be pitching Game 5 tomorrow, so he won't even be available until Game 3. The Mariners are tiring themselves out. Good times all around.
Yeah, man. Sorry. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the Vladdy piece of this is really important. Clearly, if you watch the games, it's like, yeah, Mark, like obviously. But whether or not to sign him long term, and that contract hasn't even started yet, the $500 million man, was a real point of contention. Not for me. I thought every minute of the day you sign this guy. That was my opinion. You give him whatever he wants and you sign him. That was my opinion. But that wasn't the thought of a lot of people. What you just talked about when it comes, or not, it wasn't the thought of everybody, I should say. It probably was of a lot of people, but that wasn't the overall thought. Now, exactly what you said, man. Not only was he quiet in the postseason in the past, but he made massive mistakes that cost the Jays games. And so it wasn't even just that he wasn't, impactful on a positive nature, is that he was impactful on a negative, right? Whether it was defensively, whether it was on the base pads. We all remember him dancing around on second base in the elimination game against the Twins. Like, that was a real thing that happened. And what I love about this Vladdy story is that everybody, and I obviously say that generally speaking, so many people were down on him this season based on what they want from him and not accepting the player that he is becoming. We all remember when he was, I think, second in the voting for most valuable player, hit 1 million home runs and that whole thing. And it's like, okay, what if he's not that guy, but he's a really good defensive player who hits close to 300 every year and gives you between 25 and 35 bombs a year? What if he's that guy? Is that okay? Is that worth the money? What we saw from him in this series was, on a larger scale, what we've been waiting for a Toronto athlete to do. You want to talk about the Maple Leafs and the whole core four thing with that hockey team. Yeah. Obviously, in the basketball world, we remember the championship from 2019, but for a long time leading up to that year before they got Kawhi, it was like, okay, which one of these guys is going to grab like the bull by the horns and just get the job done? And that's exactly what Vladdy did. And his contract hasn't even started yet. And I think even last night, man, he didn't hit a bomb, but he got the scoring started right away. Yep. And it was a long slug for the rest of that game. I said it on this show on Tuesday that if the Blue Jays lost on Tuesday night, I honestly believed that this was going to go 5 games. And in the 5th game, anything can happen. That's the words that I said. I didn't say that the Jays would win at home in game 5 and everything would be okay. I said that if we don't win on Tuesday, then they're going to lose on Wednesday, and anything can happen Friday, because the idea of this bullpen having to pitch an entire game terrified me. You mentioned the Jeff Hoffman piece of all this. Like, anybody who's watched Jeff Hoffman all year long, that's terrifying to have him, and not instantly, but rather quickly, it's 5-2 after starting the inning 5-1. It's now 5-2. Judge is on first. It's like, oh man, here we go. It was terrifying, but the fact that they found a way to get it done, and the fact that they didn't, I'm with you. I don't think that they were gonna actually use Gausman unless it got into like the 10th, 11th, 12th inning. Yeah, that would have been the game plan, because they just didn't really have anybody left, right? They used everybody.
They used the bullpen.
Yeah, but if this game stuck to 9 innings, I don't think they were ever going to use him. And so, yeah, man, it's huge. What we saw from the bullpen, the clutch hitting, like Lucas, Straw, like that's the best part of this, man. Is like, we all know Vladdy, we all know George Springer, Bo Bichette's been hurt, but we all know him. Kirk has gotten a lot more love, so I think more people know about him. I think more people would know, say, Dalton Varsho. but because he's been a really good defensive player for a long time.
Actually, can I interject here, because I think we're pointing in a direction that I'd be curious to go. There is no divisional series MVP. They give out an MVP for the LCS. They give out obviously an MVP for the World Series.
Yeah.
But since there isn't a divisional series MVP, Mark, you have the honors of anointing the ALDS MVP for 2025. Who are you going to give that to?
Oh, man. Honestly, I think the low-hanging fruit would be Vladdy Orjasevich. I think what he did, yes, the Jays' bats went off, but the Yankees couldn't catch up while he was in the game if they even tried. I think if I'm going to go a little bit off the board, I think Ernie Clement, man.
Yeah.
Those hits again last night. He did it again last night. I would say if you took off Vladdy, because I do think Vladdy, the problem is those two games, especially game 2, they were blowouts. His home run was the first run of the game in game 1, right?
Yep.
In game 2, his grand slam made it 9-0. So it's it was a big
5-0. 5-0. You can talk yourself into having a chance. They got a rookie. They got a rookie on the mound. He won't be in there forever. At 5-0, the Yankees can be sitting there thinking, "Well, we got a chance."
Exactly.
9-0,
so it was
9-0
a huge grand slam. Don't get me wrong, but it was still 5-0. And I do hear your point. But Ernie Clement, man, I would go off the board and I would say him, because I just think you need your big boys to be big boys. And then you need guys like Clement to do what they do as well, right?
Yeah. I would if I had a vote for this fictitious award, I would give it to Ernie Clement as well. Since you already did that, I'll give it to Vladdy. My vote to Vladdy because of everything he means to the team, but also because of the way that he just he annihilated them in first innings. You want to talk about setting the tone? He's the 3-hole hitter, right? He hits third. He knows. He doesn't know anything going into a game. No hitter really does about what kind of base out states he's going to have and whether there's going to be guys on whatever through the game. But he does know every single night that he's going to get an at bat in the first inning. And boy, did he make those count this series, right? And getting out to good starts, even in the game that they lost, they got off to a terrific start. He was a huge part of that as well, right? So I would say that would be a pretty good argument in his favor. But yeah, Ernie Clement, what else can you say, right? I think you did a pretty good job covering everything there. It's not just the defense, it's not just the scrappiness, it's not the headiness, but just terrific numbers. And then he still does stuff like jump into the netting, trying to get a foul ball in the 9th inning last night. When the game was pretty much complete. So yeah, he's about as fun to watch as any Blue Jay. I remember when things are going well, right? You have a huge appreciation for a guy like that.
I think too with Clement, was it game 3 where he dove to first base on that play? I think it was game 3, right? That wasn't last night.
Yeah, that was game 3. Yeah.
And so I know that they lost the game, but I remember watching that, and I go to Twitter and I tweeted this out, and so did everybody else. That hustle is just unreal. This guy just wants it. Yeah, it's amazing. Okay, so I want to talk about this from a big picture standpoint, because I do think it's important that people understand, this team, according to the fan base, according to what we watched on TV for the last few seasons, even the seasons, there was the one season that they made it to the playoffs when they played the Mariners. Hockey's on my brain. The Mariners in the first round, where that was a really fun season and it ended catastrophically. But even the year they made it against the Twins, if I remember correctly, it hasn't been very fun baseball here the last few years.
No,
it just
yeah,
hasn't.
I mean they tried to make the entire team out of what you'd expect from Bernie Clement or Andre Jimenez, who was also fantastic in this series, right?
Yep.
You can't just have run prevention though, because it's not like other sports, right? The defense does not lead to offense. You can't. No such thing as a pick six in baseball. Amazingly,
No. So where I'm kind of going with this is this team. I think I can't remember exactly what it was, but their over under for wins was in the 70s. Like, this isn't a team that had an 85 over under and they overachieved. Like, it might have been 70.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was that low, but it wasn't very high. It was in the 70s. This team was not expected to do a lot, including for myself. I thought it was going to be a really bad season, a really tough season. And at one point in time, they were 28-29. They were hanging around 500, kind of hovering, but nothing inspiring any sort of confidence. And what we saw from July 2nd onward was just nothing short of surprising, amazing. We talked about it at the beginning of this series, the clutch hitting that this team has. The starting pitching has been pretty spot on all year long. The bullpen has been a bullpen. It's had moments, and it's exploded in the negative way and in the positive way throughout the season. The fact of the matter is, I'm a petty person. And I have wanted Ross Atkins out of a job for years now. Mm-hmm. I don't appreciate how he speaks to the fans. I think he speaks to us like we have no idea what we're talking about.
I've said it before. I think he speaks to you like the Surgeon General's warning on a product. He is a walking embodiment of the fine print. Ross Atkins' as a personality is akin to the terms of use statement when they update your iPhone. That's what he
is. And it drives me insane. Everything he says is in code. Everything he says is just super layered and roundabout. He's like my mom when she asks me, "Hey, can you cut the grass?" There has to be a story to it. It's like, hey, can you cut the grass because this person's coming over and this person's doing this and this is happening here and I'm not going to be home on Saturday. So if we could get that done because on Monday, then like your brother's coming over. And if you could just, when really all she needed to say was, hey, can you cut the grass? That's all that had to be said. You know what I mean? We all have somebody like that in our lives. And so that's how he speaks to us. And it drives me insane. He assured us that he believed, and Mark Shapiro was the exact same thing. He assured us that this team they believed could win a World Series, and that this team was capable of going to the promised land, and nobody believed him. And you know what? This is how petty I am. I don't think he believed it either. I don't. I really don't.
So
because that's how it is with him. It just feels like lip service. Now listen, I'm not trying to rag on the guy. He built a team that is going to the ALCS. That is a big, big deal, and I'm super pumped on it. I laugh at myself because I'm so petty in my head and in my life that I'm watching all this go down, and I just refuse to believe that he had anything positive to do with this, even though Vladdy and Bo are the only two players left over from the AA years. This is all, this entire everything we see here is
even
Ross
Atkins.
Bo
was an Atkins draft pick. That was the first.
Okay, my mistake. There you go. Then it's just Vladdy.
Yeah.
It's just Vladdy, and not just Vladdy, because clearly Vladdy is more than.
I mean, just Vladdy is a lot, yeah.
Right, but everything else you see is from the Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro thing. And
Savage was their first round pick last year, which, how's that one playing out?
and I hate it. I want to stay negative on this guy. You know what I mean? Just someone who breaks your trust and you just never want to forgive, even though they're like a missionary in like Africa now. And like,
buddy, I'm a Manitoban with Scottish ancestry. If there's two things I can do, it's pinch a penny and be petty. I promise. Yeah, I understand that. Remember at the beginning of this year, talking about just exceeding expectations, they didn't come to an agreement with Vlad Guerrero Jr. in spring training. That was Vladdy's personal deadline, but they blew through that. They missed it. He started the season without an extension. This is Atkins has no contract after next year. John Schneider is in the final year of his contract. After a year like last year, it looked like, I mean, this was all over, right? Vladdy and Bo free agency, right? He had to say he was. I don't know that he believed that they had a chance to win the World Series. I know that he believed that he had to say something like that because he was about as sitting as a sitting duck can be, right? I
mean, big time.
He was, I mean, that's lame duck status for the entire decision making structure of the team, right? And yeah, I think he probably wanted to keep his 7-figure salary. I think the fact that he's been here for 10 years, he probably probably got a pretty good life, pretty good social circle, pretty good situation for his family in Toronto. He probably wanted to keep that going too, you know? And I bet after 10 years that the way he talks to fans is not the way he talks to people he knows, you know, that he works with every day. He probably wanted to keep that series of relationships. You know, nobody wants to get fired. He's been here for 10 years. He's thrown everything that he could at the wall to try to keep that going, right?
And sorry, just real quick. I also, just to kind of chime in on that, I also think if you're a Leafs fan, you are used to the Brandon Shanahan era of being talked to in the exact same way. And so I don't think it's just a Toronto Blue Jays frustration. I think and the Toronto Raptors refused for years to acknowledge that they needed to tear it all down.
Yeah, but at least with Masai Ujiri, you knew where they stood, and he did not talk to fans like that. We're going to win from the middle. He was the opposite of the Shanaplan. He was the opposite of Atkins speak.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
It also Bobby Webster is now, but
that is true. It also felt like even though he was straightforward, we all knew what he really needed to do. And it was like, come on, man. But my point is that I just feel like Toronto fans have been talked to like this or treated like they don't know what they're talking about for a long time. And what's hilarious about this is that if he actually did believe that a World Series was in this team's future, then we didn't know what we were talking about. However, again, with my pettiness, I refuse to believe that he actually believed what he was saying. So I still believe that we knew what we were talking about. But listen, man, shout out to all these guys. And that's the beautiful thing about this is it really was a full team effort. It really was not just your big boys.
I'll say
it was everyone. And that leads me, Tom, to my last point. John Schneider. I've always liked John Schneider. I didn't necessarily like the choice. He's been with the team for a long time. A lot of these guys played for John Schneider in Buffalo and in like the minors, right? I like that.
Yeah.
At the same time, there was a certain aspiration a few years ago that I felt like a brand new manager not played in the majors before, or not played, but not coached in the majors before. I would have rathered somebody who had kind of been there, done that for the specific group of guys that they had at that time. And to watch him grow with his guys, continuing from the minors into it. I understand this is a much bigger level than just John and Schneider, but a few years ago when they pulled Jose Barrios, that drove me insane. When they pulled Kevin Gausman up 8-1 on the Mariners, that drove me insane. There was all these different managing things, and I know that's not John just John Schneider. It's the nerds up in the press box, and it's there's a whole thing attached to that now in baseball. That's not just the Jays. That's a very baseball playoff thing now, and I get it. But I just felt in this series, and again, when you're spotted a 10-1 run or 10-1 lead in back-to-back games, it's kind of easier to make a couple decisions, right?
Yeah.
But I just felt that he trusted his gut more. I felt that he had a game plan, but he trusted what he was feeling and not just what the numbers told him. And
I think a great example of that last night, bringing in Sir Anthony Dominguez that early into that game, that's not on the spreadsheet. That's not from the front office. That's a gut feel, right? That's a gut feel from John Schneider that like now we can lose this game now, or we can't. Yeah, that's not that takes a lot of gumption. That's the sign of a mature manager. A guy with no contract next year who's feels comfortable enough to go way off the board with that pick. And of course it worked out because it's just been that kind of season for the Jays.
Well, and that's kind of my point, is that game plan front to back, and you're right, those kind of split decisions that might be off of it a little bit. No pitcher last night pitched more than 5 outs.
Yeah.
And he just went systematically, boom, 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 right through it. And I just thought it was just brilliant. And I'm really happy for him. I feel like a lot of times we're really attached to the players and to the stars, and rightfully so, of course. But for whatever reason, the John Schneider part of this all is just a real good, feel-good story. And to see him after the game last night, whether you're a Jays fan or not, seeing him pop that bottle, start spreading the news, like, what a great – I wonder what time of the night before that popped into his head. Like, when did he decide, when we win this series, I'm saying this?
They had the song queued up too, so that was
that was the analytics, right? That was a pregame decision because of the math. I was just so happy for him and what he did last night. And I think it's safe to say that if the Jays miss the playoffs, and I could be wrong about this, this is just my own personal feeling. If the Jays miss the playoffs like we all expected him to, it's not guaranteed he gets another big league job for a while. Maybe
the team was so weird the last couple of years.
A bench coach of some kind. Yeah.
He'd have to work his way back up the ladder.
Yeah.
The team was so weird the last few years. And I think other people around the league would know that the team was weird the last few years, right? That year 2022 where, there was the organization decided that there was too much offense and too many smiles. So Teoscar had to go and Lourdes had to go.
They got rid of the jacket and the whole deal. Yeah.
We can't have this many home runs. We can't have this many laughs. We need two.
The pineapple has to go.
We need two left-handed platoon center fielders. We need two of those.
Yeah.
No Teoscar. So and then they still made the playoffs, but boy, was that a slog. 2023 was no fun at all to watch, right? But I mean, if you're watching this team from around the league, how do you in any way know whether John Schneider's a good manager or a bad manager? They changed his team on him completely, right? How do you evaluate that? So I mean, there's no question that he'd have to kind of reclimb the last couple of rungs on a ladder, go be a bench coach, go be a whatever minor league field coordinator, whatever it might be to get back to that position. I think we now know, though, now that he had a team that made sense and enough time to kind of imprint himself on that and some continuity with new hitting coach, but some continuity with the rest of his staff.
Yeah. Pete Walker.
Now he's kind of reached John Gibbons status in Toronto, and he can stay. I think fans will be happy after this. That win last night buys him in fans' minds, certainly in the majority of fans' minds, unless he does something really dumb. You know, he's got like lifetime. He's got like, if John Gibbons came back, right? For some reason, would anybody complain? No, John Gibbons could have a job forever, right? That's what he earned that in 2015 to 2016 as the manager. You know, and I think that kind of loyalty that is a Jay specific kind of loyalty. I don't think many fan bases have that kind of a thing. So many of our managers have left and come back. Cito was gone. Cito came back. John Gibbons was here. John Gibbons was gone. John Gibbons came back. Right? There's a lot of loyalty in that way. But yeah, I think John Schneider now we can all say clearly a good manager. All of his moves were. I mean, everything works out. You look great, right? If they don't work out, you look like.
Well, that's how it goes.
But he's not a donkey, so.
And like there were a couple decisions like mixed in there where it's like, not sure about that. But I mean, here we are. And you saw and much like the hitting, much like the other things we've been talking about defensively, this is what we've seen from John Schneider all year long. Something clicked in July that has just stuck for this whole team, including the manager. And what I even more important on a personal level for him, not for me, for you, for the fans, but for him personally, what this has done in my mind is when the time comes, because it will come, where he leaves Toronto either by force or by choice, he has a job somewhere. Sure. I really believe that this has changed his kind of trajectory as a coach, and I absolutely love it, man. And you watch it in sports, oftentimes the best coaches aren't noticed, right? And whether it doesn't matter what sport it is, but I really love it a lot. I really, really appreciate that. Last night, you can talk about Vladdy, you can talk about the pitching, you can talk about the defense, you can talk about all of it. And you have to bring up John Schneider, and I'm really happy for him about that.
Yeah,
really.
I think it's great. I think it's a really good success story for the organization because he's been coaching, managing in the Jays organization forever, right? All started at Dunedin. He came all the way up to the majors, same as some of the players that we talked about, right? And that's fun, you know. Like it's great to have that kind of continuity as a fan. I don't know what it's like to work in Major League Baseball, you know. But I do know what it's like to be a fan. And when you follow these guys and you care about it after a while, right? Like we talked about with how long the season is. It's just good. When it's funny how much more fun it is winning than losing, right? If we were doing this podcast a day before and did 5, I don't think we'd have the same kind of an attitude, to be honest. I think that we'd be having a whole different set of series of conversations. But here we are because you know, the ball, in some ways, the ball just bounced our way this series. And yeah, we get to be the victorious champions of the AL East for sure now, right? So good times all around.
Absolutely. Yeah, just a huge, and there's probably a lot that I want to say that I feel like we said a lot, but hopefully anyone out there who's not a Jays fan kind of has a taste of just how big this is, man. This is really a big moment. One thing that I love, and this is no diss intended to anybody, but it was really curious because we talk about fans, right? Fans are going to fan, right? The last time we were on, a New York Yankee fan basically ignored the fact that I said that if the Jays don't win on Tuesday, they're in big trouble. He ignored that and had to tell me how I was an idiot and how S.O.S meant something else with, you know, profanity mixed in there. And you know, so, but the New York media, these videos coming out of the New York media after Tuesday's loss, calling the Blue Jays paper tigers, saying that what Tuesday represented for the Blue Jays is what we saw all year from the Blue Jays. Seeing before this series that basically the media in general, I'm not saying everybody, but the people coming across my screen, not fans, but media, taking the Blue Jays for granted, what I really love about this is that if you actually watch this baseball team all year long, I'm not saying that you had to pick the Jays to win the series, but you knew that this was in them. If you watch the Jays all year, you knew. Now, winning 10-1 and having 10-1 leads on back-to-back days, was that in them? I mean, that's insane.
That's not.
But you get my point. And I think that I'm not saying that the Yankees as a team on the field underestimated the Jays. I don't know that. I don't think you.
I'm sure they did not. That's the Jays beat them all year long. And
all year long.
Those guys all have a lot of professional pride. Those guys, you don't get to be in the majors, let alone be on the Yankees. If you're the kind of person who doesn't take things seriously, there are wide swaths of that roster that I would gladly trade for.
I think that's what I love about this, though, is that now that we're here, this is not a fluke.
No.
This is not. Yes, to win the way they did in Toronto, back-to-back games, things have to break your way. I'm not discounting that.
For sure.
But winning this series 3-1 is not a fluke. This is a really good baseball team, and I'm really excited. Now, you and I picked our World Series members
before the wild card series,
before the wild card series, and I really felt that this team could go. You thought it would be close between them and Seattle, and we'll see if Seattle does make it. We're going to find that out tomorrow night. I think that pitching matchup is going to be tough, but I thought that about the Jays game last night too, so you never know. We'll see what happens with it. But yeah, man, we're going to come back at some point here in the near future. It's been a lot, man, between baseball, between hockey starting, between football. It's been a lot. We're going to take the weekend and we're going to watch some baseball, and we're going to come back and we're going to talk early next week, maybe Sunday. But more likely than not, early next week, we're going to come back and get into the AL and NLCS. Before we wrap up the show, we're going to leave it on that note for now. Before we wrap it up, quickly, we will touch on. Now, if my buddy decides to jump on, I gave him the link. Like I said, he's a busy man. He's working, so maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. If he does jump on, we will pause what we're doing and give him the floor to talk some New York Yankees. But until then, if that does happen, let's quickly touch on right now. I just want to double check. So
0-0 in 0-0.
Yeah, 0-0. Now, I said that the most likely to come back between the Yankees, the Phillies, and the Cubs, the most likely to come back was the Yankees. Well, they're gone now, and both of these two teams are still around, which is what you said. So we get some right, get some wrong. How are we feeling right now about the Cubs and the Dodgers? Again, 0-0, middle of the sixth. LA is coming up to bat shortly.
Freddie Peralta is set to take the mound on short rest for the Brewers this evening. I don't know what that means. It was a weird game that they lost yesterday. They kind of looked like they were clawing back, and didn't get there. So we'll see. I think I'm still leaning clearly and heavily towards the Brewers for the series. I think the choice of Peralta to pitch tonight is an interesting one. And then this Phillies Dodgers series game is 0-0. We're in the bottom of the sixth right now. Yeah. Who knows if the Phillies can win today? Obviously, they force a game 5 on Saturday in Philadelphia. Let's all hope that happens. Again, we talked about this last time, but not really a rooting interest so much as just as a baseball fan. I want to keep watching as many innings of these star players playing against each other as I can.
Yes.
And then, ideally that would be what we get a little bit more of. But we'll find out real soon because that game is getting down to crunch time. They'll be counting outs at Chavez Ravine, 0-0 in the bottom of the sixth. I don't want to say anything dumb because, if I suggest that the Phillies are likely to win this, that would cue an immediate Ohtani home run or something like that. So we'll just, as Ohtani strikes out swinging, that's where we're at.
Well, and much like we talked about last night with John Schneider, when you make certain decisions and they work out, it's genius, and when they don't, it's a failure and you suck. Last night, I didn't really, and again, this is just me watching baseball. I'm not a manager, and I will never be a manager. I didn't love Nola starting. I thought if you're going to put up Suarez, you might as well just put him in. Like, what are we waiting for?
Right.
Just put him in. But it worked. And then Suarez came in, instantly gave up a home run, and then shut it down after that and pitched 5 1/3, I believe, 5 1/3, and was just terrific. And, you know, say what you want about previous years. This season, Kyle Schwarber is the straw that stirs the drink for that offense. And for whatever reason, when he cooks, everyone else comes into the kitchen. When he's got the pans heating up, got the butter, you know, melting, everyone else joins him. And that's what happened last night. And I love to see it. And just like you, man, this series, just by definition of these two teams, this series has to go 5 games. All right. You touched on the Milwaukee and Chicago series. We'll see what happens tonight. That pitching matchup, I do think that Peralta has the upper hand, but we'll kind of see what happens. The Cubs have been jumping all over them in the first inning, and in the first 2 games, the Brewers were able to come back. Last night, almost did, but not quite. It'll be curious to see what happens tonight. For Friday night, Skubal is the starting pitcher for the Tigers. Minus 138 to win the game and to win the series. Plus 118 for Seattle to win the game and win the series. I have not seen a Seattle starter. I checked about half an hour before the game or before this podcast. I haven't seen one. If you've seen something that I haven't seen, let me know. So where are we at with this, man? I think, you know, Skubal, he lost against Seattle earlier in the series. And people always talk about it's always the hitter's advantage the more that they see a pitcher. But I think when you pitch in the same series, there is an advantage to the pitcher as well, because you've seen these batters every single night where they only saw you for one game. So to me, I really like Detroit in this spot just based on the pitching matchup. I'll take the bats of the Mariners any day, although like last night, the bats for the Tigers came alive. Where are you at with this game tomorrow night? Who do you think, really what the question is, who do you think is heading to Toronto for Sunday afternoon?
So, yeah, I mean, the Mariners have kind of left a lot of meat on the bone in this series already, even having beaten Skubal in game 2. Now, the thing about that was it's not like, and I've seen quite a bit of conjecture about how Skubal can't beat the Mariners because he said it's not like they beat him up. You know, they did just enough. That's a quality start that Skubal had against the Mariners.
Oh, yeah, big time.
I'm going to go with, momentum is tomorrow's starting pitcher, right? So I'm going with the Detroit Tigers. Tarik Skubal is, if not the best, and the second best starting pitcher in the world right now, certainly in the AL. The Mariners really needed to get it done before Game 5, and they were unable to do that. So, I think Detroit. I think we'll have a Detroit-Toronto series, a throwback to the 80s and the 80s era divisional alignment, and it should be a pretty great series. I know there are a lot of Tigers fans in Canada as well, right? That's sort of a lot of people's second team.
Oh yeah,
and honestly, you love to see it. Just love to see an old team like that, a Rust Belt city too, right? I mean, I like what I like, you know. And that's sure. Detroit's great. What a weird end of the year for them. I picked against them against Cleveland, obviously, because they collapsed their way into
Same.
the playoffs.
Yep, me too.
I picked against them against the Mariners before this series started, and look what they have now. They have Tarek Skubal going against the Mariners with their season on the line. If you told them day one of spring training that their season was going to come down to Tarek Skubal's start in Game 5 of the DS, they're taking that all day, right? they're not questioning that for a second. They'll say, okay, that's a very successful season. We have a real good chance of getting to the promised land. And I'll always pick just the ultra elite pitcher in a one game series, right? It's such a huge advantage, and I don't think that seeing him a second time is going to help the Mariners enough. I mean, they did beat him once, but they didn't beat him up, So so I'm going to suggest the Tigers probably take that. Watch the Blues 12-1.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this the other day. Like, what I love about this Tigers story, and as I said in the show that we did before the wild card, my grandfather, 93 years old, he's been a Tigers fan forever. And so special place in my heart for this Tigers team. The Tigers last year, it's not a 1-for-1 comparison, okay? But they're kind of like the Jays of this year. Like, they're entering the season, could be okay, probably not going to be much. We'll see what happens. And all of a sudden, halfway through the summer, they go on a tear, and they win a round, and they move on, and they do their thing last season. This season, to me, based on last season, sure, you had high hopes for them. But realistically, it wouldn't have been a total shock to me if they kind of fell off of what happened last year. And they were on pace to win the division going away, collapsed towards the end, still got their way into the playoffs. And now they're here, one game away from the CS. And it's a really cool story that's ongoing. I think it's easy to forget that at this time 2 years ago, the Tigers were an afterthought. And for them to be in the CS, or at least, one win away from the CS, is still a really cool story that this team is still playing baseball right now. And I'm really excited to see what happens with it. What's cool from a Blue Jays storyline, not a Blue Jays fan perspective, but a Blue Jays storyline, is we talked earlier in the show about like rivalries and how the Jays haven't really been relevant enough in the last 10 years to really have a true rivalry. But if we're talking just proximity, it's the Tigers, and we're not talking about the division. We're not talking about the Red Sox, not talking about the Yankees. It's the Tigers and it's the Mariners. When the Jays travel to these cities, Jays fans show up in and
the Twins too, and the Twins
as well. Yes, you're right about that. Absolutely. So
these are great. These are great options as a Jays fan.
Oh
to
my
play
goodness,
these teams, right?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Regardless of who wins, the storylines of just every season, Blue Jays show up to these cities, and so it's going to be really fun to watch. I'm really looking forward to it. Tom, thank you as always, man. Thank you to everybody.
Can I ask you a question? Now,
of course.
Say somebody had to. Say somebody needed to buy a present for somebody. Say somebody needed to buy some sports memorabilia for somebody. Maybe a card. Where would be a great place to look?
Oh, Tom, I'm so glad you asked. Funny enough, I have these friends, Chris and company, at First Round Collectibles. They have sports cards of all different sports, hockey, football. Yeah, write it down, dude. Hockey, football, basketball, baseball. They got boxing. They have wrestling. Before I found this website, before Chris and I were bros, I didn't even know that wrestling had sports cards, and they have it. They have cards all the way up in the hundreds into the thousands, and they have sports cards for $20. They got all different types of options. They got everything from popular cards to rare cards. They have it all. FirstRoundCollectibles.com, the number 1ST, roundcollectibles.com. And funny you asked, if you use our promo code SPORTS10, you get 10% off your order. 10%. And they have ongoing sale all the time, up to 50% off selected cards. So if you do quick math, because you can get 10% off regular priced and sales priced items, 10 becomes 20, 20 becomes 30, 30 becomes 40, 40 becomes 50. A 50% off card becomes 60% off with our promo code SPORTS10. So go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Use promo code SPORTS10 for 10% off your order and up to 60% off selected cards. That's firstroundcollectibles.com. Also, big shout out to Total Apex Sports and Total Apex Media. Huge props to them for having us on board. Always have a place in my heart for this company. They gave me the opportunity to write 2 or 3 years ago now, 3 years ago now. Eternally, not intern, I guess internally as well. Internally, like my heart, but eternally grateful to Total Apex and Total Apex Sports, Total Apex Media. Whether you're a degenerate and you want like betting advice, you want fantasy advice, they're your home for that. Or if you're just a normal person and want to learn about whatever sport, they have that as well, from soccer to football to basketball to baseball to hockey to cricket. It's pretty intense. WWE, they have it all. They also have, on the Total Apex Media side of things, they have
horoscopes.
They do have horoscopes. They have health. They have lifestyle. They have horoscopes. They talk about TV shows, movies, you name it, they have it. Pop culture, the whole deal. So go to totalapexsports.com and totalapexmedia.com. We're gonna relax. I was gonna do some hockey shows this weekend. I still might. Keep tuned to Total Apex Media on Twitter, and of course Solder on Sports on Twitter. I might do some hockey shows this weekend, but it's just a lot going on, and we're just going to sit back up here in Canada. I don't know how many people out of the 100+ people watching right now, I don't know how many of you are from Canada, but happy Thanksgiving to everybody north of the border. Happy Thanksgiving. Be safe. Have fun. It's okay to not remember what happened the night before, but just be safe. Make the proper precautions. Spend it with family, with friends, all that good stuff. Well, we will be back talking baseball next week. The football show will be back, as always, next Wednesday. And the hockey show will be back at a time yet to be determined. TBD, as they say. So everybody, thank you so much for watching. As always, stay tuned here for everything coming up. Also, there are division previews available for the NHL on my Twitter account and Solder on Sports on YouTube. Check that out too as hockey season is underway. Have a great weekend. Happy Thanksgiving.